Hello, and once again, thank you very much to everyone for your feedback on the conversations to date. And thanks to everyone who's taken the time to share their memories. My guest today tells a story of determination, illumination, and ambition. As a young performer growing up in Newry, he had a clear vision of the role he wanted to perform on the theatre stage and the stage of life. He spent a lifetime learning and relearning his craft, developing dance for world-class performers and nurturing new talent who may not have recognized the ability within themselves. His yearning to dance has taken him from Abbey Yard to Castle Street to Bank Parade and the stages of Newry to London, Boston, and New York. On his journey, there were moments when the curtain could have fallen early, but his determination to overcome adversity shone through. And from a young teenager who was inspired by people in Newry, he's become inspirational on a global stage. In conversation with director, dancer, and choreographer Sean Murphy, and how it all began.
Well, do you know something, Declan? It all began with a visit to the parochial hall. I was taken by my two aunts to see a production of The King and I that the Sacred Heart were performing. And that production just blew me away. In fact, I had two cousins in it, Leo and Mary, and a friend, Katrina Fay, was playing the king. Declan, it was an eye-opening experience. First of all, the costumes and the color, but the movement throughout it just really, really spoke to me. And especially the small house of Uncle Thomas. Mm-hmm. That was an incredible ballet that I later learned from the score of Jerome Robbins. But it was incredible, and I wanted to be a part of that. Somehow, I wanted to have a tiny little bit of what all those performers on stage had. And I was very friendly with my cousins, especially Leo. And I went to Mary Glaze, and I spoke to Mary Glaze, and I said, listen, whatever you were doing on that stage, I would love to be a part of it. Now, you know, a boy, Newry, Sacred Heart Girls' School. So she said, of course, you can come to my class. Come to my class on Friday at 3:30. And that was in the physics lab.
And that was in Castle Street.
That was in Castle Street. And she had a hut, just as you were going through the gate opposite the cafeteria, the dining hall. And I will never forget it. I opened the door and I could smell the Bunsen burners in her room. And it was a mess because there were costumes everywhere and the tables were piled with books. And I remember she just took off her coat and started pushing the tables around. And she said,
in the physics lab.
In the physics lab, all the tables were around. And she says, just run. So Declan, around the physics lab, I started running. And then she taught me how to jump commands. And Declan, do you know something? That was the very first time that Sean Murphy had the aha moment that I want to do this because I connected. And Declan, every Friday, I looked forward to 3:30 and running up Castle Street and into Mary Glaze. And I wanted more. I really, really wanted more. And she would give me books. The first book she gave me was the biography of Rudolf Nureyev. And she said, oh, read that. And it inspired me because this guy started dance when he was quite old. I was then 14. And she says, read that. And I read it and loved it and wanted to be Rudolph. And from there, I started doing examinations with her. And she took me to London to one of these Greek dance festivals in the East End. And she created a piece for me called on Hamlet going to the grave of Horatio. and Alma Brown was playing. And that was the most exciting thing and nerve-wracking experience I've ever had in London, stepping on stage to dance the role of Hamlet with Alma Brown playing the piano. And I got second place. And
Excellent.
that was all in the first year. And
was that building on the speech work that you've been doing in the face, or did the two run in parallel?
I idolized my two cousins, Leo and Mary. And it was like, this is embarrassing to say, but everything that they would do, I wanted. I wanted, because it was, I just wanted that. And of course, so I went to Miss Keelty and I had speech and drama with her. And that was tough, because she was a taskmaster.
She was.
Yes, and she wanted you to win. And but you know something? By going to Miss Keelty and doing a lot of scene work with her, I could take sections of what Mary was instilling in my body, that whole idea of motion becoming the emotion of characters. So I loved that. And so I would combine what Mary was teaching me and then what Miss Keelty was putting into my body. And it was tough, because I wanted to dance more, and there was nowhere to go. And then a teacher came to Banbridge from it was the London Academy of Dance, and I would go there for ballet every Saturday. And there was another boy there, Radcliffe, John Radcliffe from Banbridge, and he was auditioning for drama school in London. And we would go and have class together with this teacher. And that was an incredible experience. And then I would go at least once a month up to Dublin, to the Dublin Contemporary Dance Theatre. And just to take, it was like I was so hungry to learn, and I knew I was so far behind that I had to catch up, and I needed, and Mary would always push me, oh, Sean, if this is what you really want to do, you have to do it. And like all of the time, at that time, I was a message boy in the store, and I would be on a bike going through Newry, delivering chickens and meeting amazing people who helped me on my career, like Jerry Scanlon. I would deliver chickens and I would go in and we would talk about music, that I needed music for a dance. And I remember going into Jerry one morning and said, I have found the most incredible piece of music. It's the four last songs, and it's Jesse Norman. He says, oh, Sean, no. Don't listen to Jesse Norman. You need to go back to the beginning. You need to listen to Schwarzkopf. And then you will see what it's going to do for you. So Jerry Scanlon and then Owen Mooney would help me with scene work, and he would just tell me stories. And it was at that time that I really wanted to choreograph, because I knew I was getting too old to dance, and I wanted to choreograph. And like I was a fiend for getting videos from the library and books from the library, and getting dancing times from Bennett's and Hill Street coming every month, just to find out what was going on in London and who was choreographing and choreographing what. So all of a sudden, out of the blue, Declan, I decided I'm going to create a modern dance company in Newry. And so like, start dance company. So who was I going to get? Well, of course, my beloved Leo and Mary were the first ones to be pulled in. Geraldine Fitzpatrick, we had Pauline Smith, we had Donald Fagan, and Declan, they believed in me, because I think part of them thought I was like crazy, but they believed in me to come and rehearse with me twice a week. And I had been in New York the summer before that, and I was at the Met, and outside the Met, the Henry Moore two-piece reclining figure, and it's in a reflecting pool overlooking Juilliard. And this massive bronze sculpture had so much movement in it. And I would go there every day eating my lunch, just looking at the statue. And I said, I want to create a work based on his sculpture because it is so beautiful. So I came home to, we are going to do a work on Henry Moore and his sculptures. And they said, okay. So during that whole time, I was singing with Seamus Crimmins, who is an incredible musician. And he had the choral union. And we were singing Forey's Requiem. And I said, I like the sound of this, but it's not right. It's not right. And it was Seamus who introduced me to the early church music. And that's what I brought in. And we created this incredible work based on Henry Moore's sculptures. And it was amazing. I made the costumes a la Mary Glaze, dyeing them in our kitchen. My mum going, Sean, mind that dye doesn't get all over the house. But I dyed the costumes and we danced it. And it wasn't great, but it was fun. And it was during that run that Henry Moore died. So that got a little excitement from the Arts Council. And they sent me a really nice letter, and I was nominated for an award, which I didn't get, but it was nice to be nominated for starting this little company. And we did a piece called Baroque Chairs, and Leo choreographed 2 pieces. And by the way, there was a reviewer. Do you know of a name called Falstaff? She was a reviewer that used to put these little things in the reporter for productions, and she reviewed it. She loved it, but she raved about Leo's performance. But she said somehow Murphy's solo did not quite work. But she gave us pride. After that, I auditioned for Laban, for Trinity Laban in London, and that was scary because I had to put myself in the forefront of going to a full audition. And here I was then 19, turning 20 to audition. And I got in.
Brilliant.
I got in. They said I had raw talent. There was something there. They didn't know what it was, but they took me in. And it was incredible because then I started working with a great teacher over there, Stuart Hops and Erica Staunton, and they helped me shape my choreographic skills. And while I was there, by the end of the first year, I knew I needed more than what they were giving me. And I went to Sadler's Wells because there was a company from America that was performing, and that was the Nicolai Dance Theatre. And we went to Sadler's Wells, got the cheapest tickets, way up in the gods, because everyone said, you have to see this company.
Yeah.
And Declan, we were all up there, and the curtain opened. And the minute it opened, I started crying. And the stage was live. There was color. There was texture. And Declan, I couldn't see the dancers on stage because of color, but there was movement. And the stage was going back and forward and sideways. And I said, what is this piece? And I had to go to my program, and the program was, in it was Pond. The piece was called Pond. And there in front of me, there was a pond. And this is what I wanted to do. This is who I wanted to work with. This was a continuation of Mary Glaze, of how I felt. Laban was a great instilling technique, but there was no passion there, and there was no aha moment. So, like a fool, I line up at backstage, and I wait for them coming out, and then this very large man coming out with this wonderful shawl. And I said, I love your work. Can I take class with you? Oh, yes, yes, yes. Come tomorrow morning at 11. Of course, I class at Laban. I said, I'll be there, I'll be there. So the next morning I went and I took company class, and it was all to just drum music, and it was so organic, and it was all about shape, and it was about time, and it was about motion. And it was, he would call it the Gestalt. It's the Gestalt, it's the essence. You must move with the essence. You must move with honesty. Don't move, do nothing if you're not honest. So I was, this is amazing. So I went every day for that week. They were there, taking class with them, loved them. And then on that Saturday, I said, Nick, I want to stay with you. I want to be in your company. And he laughed at me. He says, Sean, darling, you don't have it. He said, look at my dancers. They're old. He says, they have experienced life. My boy, you've experienced nothing. So I said, but I want to work with you. And he says, listen, if you're really sincere, meet me at my studio on September 14th at 11 o'clock for company class. Now, this was around this time. It was on April, May. And I went back, and Laban was giving me a full scholarship for the next 3 years.
Wow.
And I went back and said, no, I want to go to New York. And they laughed at me. So Declan, so I had to go home to my mom, tell her, oh, I'm not staying in London. And she saw the amount of work it took to get Sean
there
to Laban. I'm going to America, and it's really not a school. I'm going to be an apprentice, and I won't get any money. So Declan, I went, and Declan, I arrived at that studio, and he hadn't a bloody clue who I was.
Oh.
He hadn't a clue who I was, and I stayed, and he took me in. He said, come, have company class. I was with him for 4 years, and for 2 years, I was an apprentice, and I did everything from sweeping the studios to helping with the lights to filling in sections, but taking company class and having him critique my work was amazing. And Declan, the most amazing thing, wait till I tell you this. The first month in Nikolai, he won the Kennedy Center Awards.
Alwyn Nikolai, the Merlin of dance, conjuring magic where none had been before.
All of these cameras were coming in, and we were all there, and Betty Davis. And so this was said, this is incredible, this is incredible, this is incredible. And yes, I was in the back row, no one could see me, but it was the most amazing experience. And the following week, he was choreographing for guess who? Rudolf Nureyev. And Rudolf came, and he was taking company class with us for 1 month. And I would not have the nerve to even say hello to him, like everyone would want me. But it was just to be in the presence of greatness. And Nick, he, like Mary Glaze, he was such a mother hen. When he got his dancers, and when he could feel that connection and the passion they had, he wanted to work. And he taught me everything. Like going back to Jerry Scanlon and the 4 Last Songs, Schwarzkopf, my first piece that I choreographed in New York, 4 Last Songs. And we got this wonderful singer from Juilliard, and Nick worked with me on that piece for about a month. And then Declan, like it's so funny just looking at all these funny stories. I needed a grand piano, and Nick only had an upright piano. And he said, Sean, if the reviewers come and they see an upright piano, they're going to kill you because you're doing like 4 last songs and on an upright piano. So Sean was going, Nick, I can't afford to rent an upright piano. And he was on the 7th floor. He says, my boy, go and find one. So I went up. So where do you my God, in those days in the West Village, there were buildings just of dance companies, like Merce Cunningham and John Cage on the ground floor coming in. Like John Cage and Merce Cunningham walk. The first time I saw them, I thought they were like street bums coming in because they were carrying plastic bags, these old coats and caps coming in, masters. And so all in this building, so I would go around all the studios looking, and they would say, Sean, that piano is not tuned. You can't use that one. So I went to the Limone company and they sent in the piano and they gave me the piano for 4 last songs. And from 4 last songs, that was a wonderful success. We got a wonderful review from the Village Voice. And I started choreographing in earnest there, and came back to Ireland with a very good friend, Denise Oaktie, for the summer. And we did a concert at the Parochial Hall, 1+1. And we showed work that we were creating and work by other young choreographers. And that was wonderful. And Leo did a piece with us in that. I went back to New York and stayed there. But then my journey had to continue. I always see my life ticking as in chapters. There is Newry and this amazing energy and learning, and then Laban, and then New York, and what New York instilled. And I needed more. I needed more, and I needed a place where I could really afford to show my work. Like Declan, for me at the beginning stages, to get dancers, I would go and get credit cards and just run them up to pay dancers and to pay a hall and to pay lighting and go into huge debt to put on shows just to get a review. Like I was a dishwasher. I was a busboy at Whole Wheat and Wild Berries just off Christopher Street. So the clientele was so bright and so vivacious in that restaurant. I love it. So, and when you hear this, I had another job when I was at Nick, every day, because I didn't get paid. So I did get, every hour I could get free, I would go to work. But there was this wonderful woman called Kay Corinth. She was the daughter-in-law of the famous German expressionist painter Louis Corinth. But she was a writer for Vogue and Cosmopolitan. So Nick got me this gig, Declan. Every day I would go to have lunch with Kay. And that's what I was paid for, to go and have lunch. And she was quite old at the time, and she'd be in her bed, and she would have her tray there and my tray. And we would sit and talk theatre and dance. And then I would have to deliver her scripts, her writing to Vogue and to Cosmopolitan. So it was about an hour, and we would go to theatre at night, and she would take me to dinner parties and introduce me to lots of amazing people. So my next adventure was, I needed a degree, because if I wanted to go on teaching and I wanted to get into conservatory level, I needed a degree. And Sean wasn't really the greatest student while in Newry. And because his mind was too up in the clouds to really focus on anything. So Nick said, Sean, there is an amazing school in Boston, the Boston Conservatory. He said, let's try that, because he knew Rutha Ambrose. And he said, this could be a perfect fit for you. He created a new solo for me. I went, they took me in with full scholarship if I taught 2 classes a week. So this, because that was the first time they were taking in mature mature artist. And by that, I like mature. I wish I was that mature now. I was like 28. I was that mature. So I went in and I did my bachelor's there. And then I went straight right into my master's, that I focused on choreography.
Where did you find the hours in the day to do all of this, Sean?
Oh, no, you have no idea. You have no idea. I was young, and so going to the conservatory, okay, going to Boston. Remember, no money. So where was Sean going to live? So like, there's the luck of Murphy is this. I went and the first day at the conservatory, there was a tiny little note. I need someone to answer my door. And for this, you would receive full room and board. I said, what is this? Like, I need someone to answer the door, full room and board. So everyone said, Murphy, do not apply for that. You don't know who it is. But I said, I need a place to stay. So I went, and you know something, Declan? It was one of the top socialites in Boston. I'm not going to say her name, but she lived in the Back Bay in this incredible brownstone. And yes, my job was to answer the door and to run errands within like my schedule, which was non-existent.
Yeah.
And to get this incredible room with like a roof view of Boston, like in the middle of the Back Bay, incredible. And from there, I started cooking as well, and I cooked for Ted Kennedy. I got him in as well. So I was working for Chris Gabrielli, and they helped me a great deal mountain work. They became patrons and really set my name within Boston, New York as a choreographer. And the very first piece I did in Boston, oh my God, Declan, this was incredible. For my master's thesis, I did a juxtaposition of church music of the High Venetian Renaissance with German expressionist dance, Gabrielli aloft. This whole piece, when I tell you that, oh my God, the luck. This whole piece was based on the pigeons of St. Marco's Square in Venice. And I got dancers from New York City Ballet, Joffrey Ballet, and Boston Ballet, with some of the top modern companies, Leslie from Paul Taylor, to come and dance for me in this piece. And Declan, that is the piece that clinched the deal, because the next morning, the headline of papers were, Murphy brings dancers to new heights. And then the next paper on the headline was Murphy soars.
Incredible.
So that was it. And that was Sean's journey. And I kept on choreographing, showing work and showing work and showing work. And then I wanted to teach, and I wanted to teach at the conservatory. And they took me into their opera department, and I did movement for operas and staging for operas. And then I got a wonderful gig with the Boston Symphony Orchestra. Every year they had a full season at Tanglewood, which is this incredible place on the New York, Massachusetts border. And it's for 12 weeks. And they would bring artists from literally all over the world in. And each week they would bring in students who would have to audition for a complete immersion. And every week, Declan, I would get 12 to 14 students who were incredibly talented. And I had to choreograph a piece that would be premiered every Thursday night. And I got my students at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Monday. So with that, because they would bring donors in and we would show our work. And depending on it was how much money your donor would give, and you had to bring in a lot of money. And so that's where I really learned to choreograph fast and to get work out. And like, I'm not saying, but there was weeks, I would have Steven Spielberg sitting in with a group of people of 12 who would be coming in to watch this work. Tom Hanks, Yo-Yo Ma would be there, you name it, they were there coming in, talking about the work. And I did that for 20 years.
Sean, that's incredible. That is incredible.
I did that for 20 years. And then I'm at this point, what am I going to do? But Declan, do you know something? The funny thing is, you can never rest on your laurels. I was in New York, I was choreographing 2 pieces there. And one was for the Packer Collegiate, that we're going to be doing a piece at the Guggenheim. And I was so happy. I was making money, and we had just bought a townhouse in Boston, and we'd sold our place in Cambridge. And I remember walking up Park Avenue and saying to myself, Sean, you are the luckiest person in the world. I said, everything is just turned out so well for you. You are so lucky. And I would remember walking. And I would come home every Friday night. And that Friday night, Peter met me at the bus. I used to take the Chinese, oh my God, the Chinese bus, because it was only $15 to come back, even though you were on the bus for 6 hours. He met me there, and he said, Sean, we have to go to see Russell tomorrow morning. And Russell was my lawyer. I said, Peter, we don't have time to see Russell. We're trying to pack up Cambridge and to move in. He says, no, you're going to have to go to see him. And so when we went home, he said, oh, and I bought sushi tonight. And I said, there's something wrong. So I went home, and he said, Sean, you have to leave. And I said, what do you mean to leave? He says, your visa has expired. You have to leave the country. And I went into Russell the next morning. He said, Sean, I'm really sorry. I don't know what has happened. It was after 9/11. If you had not applied for citizenship, you had to get out. I said, but Russell, I'm working in New York. I have these shows opening, and we've just bought a house. I says, when do I leave? He says, you leave in 7 days. So I said, no, I can't. Like, this is ridiculous. So I was dumb. I was just like, this is awful. And I went back, and Hillary Clinton, God bless her. She was the governor of New York, and she was connected with the project that I was doing, that I couldn't even finish it. And with that week, it was in all of the newspapers in New York, like Newsweek, Newsday, and the TV shows in the morning. Why was this guy being asked to leave when look at the work he's doing, and these are the people who are doing it. Mm-hmm. Hillary Clinton got me back within 1 year.
But you had to leave America for a year.
I had to leave, and I don't want to get into it, but that was the darkest part of my life.
I'm
that
sure.
Was everything. I remember we just moved into Symphony Road, this amazing house. Everything was in boxes, and I was in a plane to London, and it was terrible, and it was a horrible year. I came back to Newry for 2 months of that year. The only good thing about that, and there was a wonderful cello teacher in Newry, Mark Doran, St. Coleman's College.
Yes, I know Mark. Yeah.
I would take cello lessons with him, and that was my only escape. But I didn't want to see anyone because I felt that I'd failed. And I got back the following June, and Declan, I had to leave Newry, like after you're really not working with London there, like no one remembering me in London, and like too proud to say in Newry that I'd failed for a year.
But
And
you hadn't failed. I mean,
I know, but
it
it
was a
was, like,
technical.
it was horrible and no work. And I left Newry on the 19th of June to go back to America to start work on the 20th, as if nothing had happened. Back to tango. I was doing Dido in an ace. My God, I couldn't even read the script. The score.
Well, that must have been a very emotional moment when you were told you could return.
It was. I left them telling me, like, from Clinton saying, and Russell, that, Sean, you can come back anytime, but if you come back any, that's going to be added on. Like, if you have this project on the 20th of June, you can't mess it up because you need work in order to come back.
Yeah.
But you know something, Declan, out of all of this horribleness, good things happen, because I came back, but I couldn't go back to what I was doing because that was luxurious to what the government said. I had to give something back to the community and to teach. Here I was in the middle of, I would, like, my mind going, I was falling apart. I wasn't stable. And to go in and teach, and Declan, I never learned to drive because it was always London and New York and Boston. I never learned to drive. And I was offered a job in Lawrence, which is a very low income Hispanic neighborhood, 30, 40 miles outside Boston. And I got a job there and I had to take it. And I would have to take that for 3 years in order to give back. And here I was coming, this guy who was choreographing in New York, to come into this school. And I went in the very first day, Declan, and I was so frightened because no one in the school had ever danced before. And I was given a class of students. They were like 16, 17, 18-year-olds who didn't want to be there and who were there because it was either the government were making there or the police. And I remember going into this room and I had to make it work. And I had to make it work in order to gain status again. Well, Declan, I went in and no one would move. They were laughing at him. So of course, he was this very over the top guy running around, having them run. Come on, guys, up you get, up you get, up you get.
With a strange accent.
No, yes, no way were they going to. So what I used to do to bribe them, I used to bring in donuts to win them over because I would have them for the day. And I wasn't going to give up. And then I told them, because I had just finished reading the Odyssey. I love Homer. I love Homer. And I said, guys, we're going on an Odyssey. And they said, well, what is an Odyssey? It's a journey. And we're going to tell stories on our journey. But in order to go on our journey, we have to find a very safe place. And they were laughing and joking. So I would be asking some guys, well, where's your safe place? Oh, with my girl doing this, having drinks. And there was one boy in the corner, a large boy, and he was lying there, hood over. And I said, Jose, where is your safe place? And he wouldn't talk. And I said, come on, Jose, just where's your safe place? Where is your safe place? Where is your safe place? And he got up and he just walked right over to my face and he pointed, he says, Murphy, look at my feet. And I said, yes. And I said, oh my God, what am I doing? He says, look at my feet. He says, these are new sneakers. Look at them. Aren't they really great? And he started like just running around. He said, these are the first sneakers that I have ever owned. They are mine. He says, I was only given my cousin's sneakers and they're always worn and they're always dirty. These are mine. And he says, my God, Murphy, they feel good. And these sneakers are my safe place. And that was it. Ah. We started from there. And these kids told stories and these kids started to move. It was raw movement and it reminded me so much of myself and Mary Glaze, not knowing what second position was, but being able just to be free for a few hours, to get away from everything and live and simply be. And we told stories and we filmed it. And we made an incredible documentary, and it won the Shorties in LA. 2 years later, we won the Shorty competition. And from a year prior to that, here was I back home, freaking out, thinking my life had ended. And it was a step to on my next journey. And the following year, Dance magazine in New York gave me Dance Teacher of the Year.
How did you feel at the end of that piece when you made the movie and made the documentary?
When I made it and they were looking at it, like
you wouldn't have chosen that if you'd seen.
I couldn't have chosen it. I couldn't have I couldn't. Like some of them.
It chose you in a way.
Yeah, it chose me. It found me, and that it was from that moment that I said, "This is dance." Because who am I coming in telling people, no, it's this. No, bull. It's dance is motion. It is movement. It is honesty. It is what comes from your soul. And I don't care what it is. If it's coming from you honestly, as Nick said, it is pure and it is dance. I would get a bus I would be up every morning at 3:30 to get the 4:15 bus to a little town, and then that was over an hour, and then hire a driver from there to take me to Lawrence, to be there by 7:30, because I was teaching them how to read. Like here was guys at 18 and 19 could not fill in an application. And I had parents in, and oh my God, Jose, he did this incredible piece. He went on to a community college in New York that was taking in kids that had no training, but into the arts, and he was auditioning for that. And he did a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful piece of Chopin. It was just moving and arm gestures, and it was honest. And he got in, and he is performing. So this is this guy on the street who is now performing, who believed in Homer, went on the Odyssey, and the white sneakers were his life.
But how much do you think then you took on board what Mary Glaze gave to the boy who was cycling around Newry on the delivery bicycle and inspiring you to be what you are, that you then were able to give that back to that young fella who got his new seekers and built on that?
I am over emotional. I could start crying now, because no one will ever know what I got from Mary Glaze. Like, she made me who I am. She ignited that inner flame where everyone else in Newry would look at me and say, oh my God, that guy is so weird. Like, what is he doing? Like, blah, blah, blah. But she instilled, and she says, Sean, always walk with your head up, always. And all of these people in Newry, from Mrs. Cronin having violin with her, Jerry Scanlon just instilling me with so much music, Owen Mooney with stories and stories of Newpoint, Hollywood, Sam Russell, Sheila McGuigan, Geraldine and Stephen Fitzpatrick. They would tell stories, and I would just take all of these in, and they were just all finding places in my heart. So, but that's what made me, it's all those people that made me who I am. It is that wonderful little town in Newry that I used to walk my dog Tricks in the morning all around, and then run up to the store in Abbey Yard, let him into the yard to run around, get on my message bike and deliver chickens. And oh my goodness, and my aunt said, how long does it take you to deliver chicken? And I would be out 2 hours because I had business to do, all delivering chickens. But no, wait a minute, my story's not finished, because wait a minute, from Lawrence, I won a song tag, and this song tag is for education from Harvard. So it was, all of a sudden, I got this award, and Sontag is for artists just to really show the work. And I was, so people would, educators from all over would come in and watch. And I was asked to come to Boston to teach here. And I came into a school that at first I felt they didn't need me, but they did. And I've been teaching there at the Elliott. It's an incredible school for gifted students. And it has an incredible arts dance program. And I was asked to come in to develop their dance theater. And I have that, and I teach at the Boston Conservatory, and I'm happy. But this year is going to be very different. And I'm retiring from teaching. Yes, this fabulous artist does grow old. So I'm retiring from teaching. I decided. But an exciting thing is this. We've decided to move back to Manhattan. And I've got a project there that I've been asked to choreograph a work for a group of dance performers on the Book of Ruth, a biblical story. Mm-hmm. And I've been asked to put it into a modern context with modern music, but I still want to go to Persian roots and bringing it. So that I'm working on that at the moment. And I'm going back now to look at the moving theatre images and start. And I'm gathering my friends and other people from 60 plus up, and we are going to start performing again. And I'm looking forward to that. And that's my next chapter of really where I want to go. That is my next chapter. Closing up, I'm working on this wonderful production of King Lear at the minute. Movement and having part recorded and part performed live, and it's going with the music of Boromsky beat, and that is it's set in the 80s. Work is good, and Declan, I'm really happy.
Sean, it's an incredible journey, and thank you for sharing it. The fact that you're doing King Lear loops it back so beautifully to class 21. For a dramatic passage from Shakespeare and a sonnet from Shakespeare.
Oh my goodness, I remember that. I remember
what passage you did?
I did a piece from Julius Caesar, and I did a piece from Romeo and Juliet. But I think that my favorite there, and I won in Newry, was I did a piece from Equus, and it was all movement. And you know, in the face, you have to go stand center stage.
Yes, yeah.
So I went right off the stage, sitting on it, crawling on, and did this amazing piece from Equus, and they loved it.